Welcome to Through the Glass. We took a little time off. We didn't deserve it, but we took it anyway. 20 episodes in a row. This is our 21st, and it's the first one that isn't on the weekly basis. If you've been tuning in, I really appreciate it. If you've been busting my chops in text messages, making fun of me, I appreciate that too. Thank you, all my good friends. I'm stoked to have Chelsey Ziolkowski, the co-owner. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Co-owner of the Bradley Brew Project. A friend, a business owner, a family person, I think a whole lot more too. I hope to get into some of all that today. Chelsey, thank you so much for coming on the show. Hello.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Excited to be here.
Oh, it's nice to have you. So, what's the deal? Why do you co-own a brewery? How does that happen? Tell us your story.
That's a great question. I'm so happy we're starting with this. It might take up the whole time, so from the beginning, I guess, I got into the craft beer world a little over 10 years ago, and I just loved what was happening around beer. I loved the conversation that was happening. I was, in my early 20s. I didn't really want to go out and party, but I wanted to hang out with people. I wanted to talk. I wanted to have conversations. I wanted to create a community around me. And I found that in the craft beer industry. And I just really kind of hooked onto it and dug my teeth into it. Went out and, visited different breweries, fell in love with the canning line, the whole process of making beer, selling beer.
We'll assume everyone knows what canning line means.
I would hope so, but if not, it is the method of getting the beer into a can, sealing it, and being able to sell it through either a distribution model or within our tasting room. Within that time of me getting into beer, I met my husband, Mike, who was also a lover of craft beer, and we had really great conversations around it as well. And we were friends in the beginning, and that friendship grew into love and fell in love with craft beer together and each other, ended up getting married. Knew we always wanted to do something, start something, create something. Wasn't sure what, but we just kept talking about it. A lot of it was pillow talk at the end of the night. Like, what can we do? What can we do that's bigger than us, that would make a difference, that we can hand down to our children one day? And, in the beginning, it wasn't what it is now. We came up with all these different ideas, and it kind of just naturally fell into opening a Main Street small tasting room in a little beach town.
You're downplaying it. a little tasting room in a quaint little beach town. I mean, you guys have
That's the way I look at it.
Dope spot in one of the greatest towns on planet Earth.
It is.
On Main Street.
Bradley Beach is a really cool town.
And if there's any guff, you've got the police station right across the street and the ambulances. So you're so freaking set up.
Funny you say that, because we ran into a situation today where our fire alarm started going off. We had no idea why. We were just running around the building like, what is going on? Police come. Fire station comes within minutes. Everyone's there. No one can figure out why our alarms are going off. The fire station, the guys are in the rafters looking, seeing if there's any smoke anywhere. Turns out, so this is very important for everybody to know, that spiders can set off your smoke detectors. I learned today that there's a little window in our smoke detectors that if that window goes dark because of smoke, your fire alarm gets set off. So if a spider is standing in front of that little window, it could set your fire alarm off and cause a crazy situation to occur. So it's great that they're right across the street.
So yeah, you guys have a sweet location. So continue. I didn't mean to cut you off. So you find this quaint little spot.
Yes, this little spot on Main Street. And I say little because we quite literally probably are brewing in one of the smallest amounts of space in New Jersey. It's incredible what our guys do in the back. They're brewing a pretty incredible amount of beer in this. This room I'm probably in is, 200 square feet, and it's probably double the size of this. So that's a huge feat. And it's Tetris back there, and it's pretty incredible what we're doing. I think that's something we're most proud of what we're pushing out and what we're creating out of such a small space. We always like to say we're small but mighty. So we, in the beginning, you have all these ideas when you open a business, and those ideas change over time. Conversations happen that help with that change, and we're really focused on the tasting room experience. We really wanted to focus on introducing people to beer, people who had maybe never had craft beer before, and likewise people who have been in the craft beer industry for a while. We're almost connoisseurs on beer. We wanted everyone to have a different experience in our space, and that's what we've created. We're really proud of it. We are constantly challenging ourselves. We're constantly talking about how can we make our customer experience the best we can. How can we educate? How can we do stuff beyond just beer? How can we get involved with the community? That was a huge piece for me, and Mike as well. And we've created that, and it's cool. It's very cool to be, I don't like to say like, oh, I'm the owner of this business, but to own it and to be able to provide stuff like that. I'm really proud of what Mike and I have built together.
It's very cool. Many couples, be it married couples, dating couples, friendship couples, family couples, sometimes as you get older, or as you begin to sort of accomplish things like maybe buy a home or start a family, that's usually when sometimes your ambition gets tempered a bit. That's when it's like, okay, well, let's focus on what's safe and makes the most sense for us, even just surviving this thing called life and surviving it as a family and bringing children into it, which is a huge decision and commitment, which some people, think through fully, and some are like, oh, I guess that's happening now. And everything in between. I think it's very cool. And I get this image of you guys, staying up late at night and just conjuring up ideas. And I could totally connect to that. My wife and I are always having those conversations. 2/3 of them are completely ridiculous. And it's just, it almost like keeps it lubricated. It keeps that part of your brain lubricated and it's still thinking and creative. But then a good third of it are like, hey, we should explore that. Or even more intelligently, what would it take to explore that? So how did you guys then go from agreeing on something that was a bit of a dream, or like, hey, we have this shared passion, how can we turn that into something that works for us, when you were getting married already? Is that correct?
Yep.
Did you just move into your home?
We had been in our home for about 2 years.
Okay, so pretty close.
We had been there for a while.
So this is the point where a lot of people are trying to go safe, and it seems like you guys went risky. I mean, I'm just using general terms here, but it definitely wasn't the safest choice, and I think that's super cool. I think that correlates a lot to the artistic community that comes in and out of this place all the time, and one that I could identify with. It's like, well, this is what I want to do because this is what will make me happy, or what will make others happy, and then come back to me and fulfill me in some way, either financially or spiritually or emotionally. How did you then take it to the next step?
Well, first of all, it's really cool to have you relate it to artists, and because I have a huge respect for artists, all the arts, music, dance, art. And I've never put myself in that genre. So to hear you kind of relate to it is cool, because I would love to be an artist. I just don't have that talent. But, and if you asked Mike and I, we'd probably have very different answers to this question. But my way of going about it and making it a reality was research. I researched every state. I researched our own state. I researched breweries. I reached out to people. I had conversations. I needed all of the information to make this a reality. And that was how I handled it. Mike, on the other end, as soon as I gave him we can do this, he was like, done, flies off. He goes and does his thing. he's really incredible with how he just gets stuff done. But once you give him the green light, he's like, all right, let's do this. So he, handled the finance side of it, and I handled the what do we need to give to a planning board to get a variance, to convince a town to let us to move in. And I think, not to say that if we didn't have each other, this wouldn't happen, but we really elevated the process and sped up the process because we have each other. I think if we didn't have each other, it's something we might have done separately as well, because we are both very passionate people. We're go-getters. We just like to do a lot of things at once. But it would have taken a lot more time if we were on our own doing it. And we, it's so cliche. We make an awesome team. We're complete opposites, as opposite as can be. And it worked. It worked in this scenario. I mean, it's hard to really have a definitive answer. But I think that if you don't think about it and you just make it happen, just go and just do it. That's kind of our MO. Does it make sense? Not all the way. No, not at all. We had 2 little kids. I had gotten pregnant in the process. So throughout this, I was pregnant with our 3rd child, who we actually had 10 days before we opened the doors to our brewery. So she just had her birthday on May 22nd. And every year on her birthday, we're like, oh shit, our anniversary is in 10 days for the brewery.
Yeah, don't forget that. And that's when I met you. I met you at, I think, the brewery's soft opening. You had just had the baby like 9 minutes earlier.
Yep.
And I was like, holy shit. I was invited because Alex Rystrom, one of my dearest, oldest, closest friends, love him till the end, brother type, was working with you and had known you guys prior to the brewery opening. In fact, I remember several conversations with Alex when the scene in our area was a lot of people brewing out of their garage and driveways. And he's like, you should come to this driveway hang in Wall. I'm pretty sure it's around the corner from you. You should come and hang out. I've been sort of, working with these other brewers, and, they actually have kids who are the exact same age as your kids. You should just literally walk over. And it never worked out exactly. And I had also introduced him to the Barbier crew with 2 Ton Brewing. Yep. And I just never made it out. And then he had invited me to the soft opening, or in classic Scotto fashion, I just showed up and maybe wasn't on the list. And yeah, you had just had the baby. The brewery had not even officially opened yet. It was beautiful. And I remember talking to you for a few minutes about, hey, I just introduced myself. Hey, I'm a friend of Alex. It's very nice here. I also knew the architect who I think had worked on your project.
Yes, you did.
So there was that connection.
Yeah, there was a connection there was like a triangle connection with Alex, you, our architect.
Yeah, I know smart people. I know smart people. That's been my move my entire life. Hang out with smart people.
That's the smartest thing you can do.
Yeah, because I wasn't learning.
Is hang out with smart people.
Please, people.
Surround yourself
with smart people. And at your soft opening, you were just sort of telling me a bit about the story, and we were tasting the beer. It was great. And you were talking about music and how you wanted to incorporate music. I said, I might know a guy. I think I know someone. And that was when we met. And the brewery, I think, just started very strong in that the quality of the product was there, the variety was there, the context was there. It's like, oh, it's this family, they're super cool. You describe yourselves as opposites. I don't think that comes off when you're coming in. You guys are both sort of hitting on the same level, at least to the common folk and to the clients and customers. And gorgeous location. Bradley Beach is one of my favorite towns on earth, right next to Asbury Park. Yep. And it was impressive. And you guys just came strong. And it was exciting. It was exciting to see that. I had lived in Bradley Beach for some years prior, so I just have a lot of love for the town.
I can see that.
And
it's great.
I love it. Absolutely love a lot of towns, but Bradley Beach in particular. So there was no fear. There was no like, hey, if this happens, then we're screwed, which is a conversation, obviously, that a lot of couples have. I know I've had it with my wife, where it's like any risk you take, of course you have to say, all right, now let's draw out what it looks like to totally fucking fail at this, to complete disaster. What does that look like, and where are we at that point? I think that's an important conversation for friends and couples and business partners to have. How did that conversation go?
So, I haven't talked about that conversation in a long time, because now we're 3 years from when we opened. So it's never, I've got asked a couple times in the beginning, like, what if you fail? What if this doesn't work out? So, I would be lying if I say I wasn't fearful, because once you have kids in the picture and you're, it's just Mike and I, we're the only two, we have no investors. So we literally put everything on the line. And when you have a house that you have to uphold with children in it, it's definitely scary. But with that said, if everything fell apart and we lost everything, we have family, we have friends. I never felt like we would be living on the streets. I never felt that, even if we lost everything, we'd have a place to go. We could rebuild ourselves. We are smart people. Mike's super smart. And we can, we'll be fine. We'll be okay, even if we fail. And I think that has sat with us even now, because even, we're just starting. This is just the beginning for us. We still have so much that we want to do, so much that we want to create, so much that we want to share. So if you hold on to fear in these processes that we're going through of creating, then it could be a failure, right? But if you let that fear kind of trickle away, knowing that you'll never fall flat on your bottom. Some people talk about money as being their cushion, but my cushion is my family, my friends, my community. Just like I hope that I can be that cushion for my family, my friends, my community. I have an open door policy in my house. If you ever need help, if you ever need anything, walk on in, sleep on my couch. And I know putting that out into the world, the same will be returned to me. And I don't do it because of that. I do it because that's how I was raised and that's what I believe in. And so, like I said, of course I was fearful and I had the thoughts of, what if this doesn't work out? But it only lasted seconds. It wasn't something I lost sleep over. And I don't want to speak for Mike, but I think same for him. And I think that really ignited a lot of the quickness of how it all came about and how we created this business.
That's interesting. You're talking about faith.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, you're faith. I'm going to put on my preacher hat here now.
Do it.
Which it's around here somewhere. I might have lost it a couple of decades ago. But yeah, you're talking about faith. And I have these I could totally connect with you on this feeling of, some people want to knock on wood when you say, what's the worst that can happen? Many people want to knock on wood or like, oh, don't say that shit. And, obviously that's superstition and it can be a little silly, but there's some truth in that. But the reality is, if you honestly feel like I have an excellent family system and an excellent friend system, well then really, what is the worst that can happen? I have put people on my couch. I have been on people's couch. When you look at it that way, I I couldn't agree more. It's the ultimate, like, I don't know if confidence is even the word. It's faith. It really is. It's kind of like a religious thing. I'm not a religious person, but I think it's the same exact thing. What is the worst that can happen?
You lose all your money?
Yeah. So you go all the way there and you're like, okay, well, I still have this family. I still have these friends. I still have, obviously, my mind, my ambition, and my talent, which, unless there's something really crazy that happened, is still intact after money goes to zero in this hypothetical that we're creating. It really is a beautiful feeling. I don't think you need to knock on wood when someone says that. I think you need to knock on your friend's door, or knock on your mother's door, or knock on your sister's door, or whatever, and get reminded of how much support we really have. We're never an island,
and we shouldn't be.
No, it's boring too. It's a lonely path, and you had mentioned earlier how this was pretty badass too, the way you said it. You're like, we probably would have gotten there anyway on our own. So there'd be two breweries in Bradley Beach, unrelated completely. They don't know each other. Healthy competition, but when you can combine talent and energy, really energy. When you can combine energy, and that's another correlation to music and the artistic world. I know countless artists and musicians, as have been the people I've gravitated to my whole life, even as a toddler. And the ones who can collaborate always are able to make more. Sure, there's some geniuses. There's some island geniuses. But it's such a tiny percentage. And there's usually pretty, lonely people, by the way. The few geniuses I actually know are pretty fucked up. And they're like they wish they were slightly less geniusy,
right? And
just more collaborators and successful in a normal way.
They're super cerebral, right? But it's they don't have the social emotional aspects, right? They almost all of their power goes to the genius status.
Yeah, and that question of what's the worst that can happen doesn't sit as easy with a person like that too. Because it could be pretty tragic in their mind. So yeah, normal, intelligent people who are building community, building alliances, grit. Obviously, you guys are an example of that. What's rubbed off on your kids? So your children were super. The twin girls were super small when you guys opened. The youngest, I'm sorry, I don't have any names here. Sorry, I'm that typical guy who's yeah, girl 1, girl 2, girl 3. Where's it? Oh, boy, girl, what? Typical, not paying attention to the details. Normal. Yeah, it's pretty normal.
No offense taken whatsoever.
Certainly, the business acumen and the process of business has certainly rubbed off on your kids. Have you ever seen? Has it ever come back to you this crazy businessy reflection, a mirror, what did you say, or what did you suggest?
Yeah. Oh yes, crazy. Our girls, and this is what there's a lot of things that make me proud with owning our own business and doing what we're doing. And when I say our business, I mean Mike, myself, and all of our employees, because we're all doing it together. But watching my girls, I have to drag them to work with me all the time. These poor kids have to come to work and just sit in the brewery, and I have to be just sit in this corner. I have to do 20 million things and just sit there. Don't do anything. Sit there. And that's what I tell them. But then I look behind me and they're up clearing tables without anybody asking them to. They want to be a part of it. They want to be involved. And I have to remind myself that constantly, because sometimes I'm I have this thing in my head where I feel so bad I have to bring my kids to work with me when they could be on a play date or swimming in the pool or playing a sport. But they're getting so much more by being there with me and watching me, seeing, a woman in the industry doing this and, watching their dad work a full-time job and then coming and doing this. It 100% rubs off on them. They are constantly, when we're home, they're like, Mom, let's go outside and do a lemonade stand. I'll charge like $6 for my lemonade. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. You can't charge that much for lemonade. But, you know, they have that drive in them to do it. And they always are working for something. They're like, well, if I work, I can buy this toy. Or if I work, I could put it away and do this. And it's, you know, as parents, you think like we need to teach this to our kids. But what this has really taught me, it really is true that leading by example is the most important thing with your children. We can say things all day to our kids, all day long, tell them what's wrong, what's right, how they should be, how they should do their homework, how they should react to their teacher, how they should react to their friends. Oh, don't let that kid bother you. You could talk all day to your kids, but what really impacts kids is your example and what you're doing. They love me so much. And that's such a good feeling. And kids just love their parents or their guardian, whoever is their caretaker, whoever is, you know, the one that's, you know, that they look up to. It's not always a parent. It could be someone else for sure. But they love watching you, and they love that example, and they love modeling it.
Totally. I could, and I do, could talk till I'm blue in the face about, basically it breaks down to do this and don't do that. And I'm pretty sure both just sound like this to the kid. It's just noise. Yeah, it's example. And it always proves itself. So if I see something, my wife Julie will often like point out something. She's like, that's all you. Like if it's something like positive, like something nice. And then I'll notice like something like horrible. And I'm like, oh, that's me too. Like, oh my gosh. These things I didn't tell them to do, but you're just being yourself. You can't, there's no words. I mean, it comes down to like just trying to, in fact, like just influence people in general. Like who are you really gonna influence like with your words? So there's, especially in recent years, there's so many political and religious and ethical arguments going on. Strong side here, fight, disagree. You can't really change anyone's mind. If you could change someone's mind, then we would know, because we have little kids. We see them 20, something hours a day practically. We're bombarding them. We're obsessed. We're over the top. We're definitely too much, probably most of the time. But we're there. If you could influence people with words, it would certainly be proven by children snapping to it and doing what their parents tell them. And it's never the fucking case. Ever.
Yep.
Like they might stop something they're doing, but it doesn't really like change their minds about it. It's all about who they are out of the womb, and then the environment, which is not the words. It's your example. And I think you guys are killing it on at least on the example tip for work.
For work.
So are they translate? Is that translating to the home? Do you have to, like when dinner's done, you and Mike just chill and the ladies clean it up?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they do. They are like pretty incredible kids. They will, not always. They don't always. But they do. They clean up after themselves. They don't clean their room. Like their room's a disaster, but the kitchen table gets cleaned up after dinner.
If you had to choose a neat kitchen or a neat kids' room, I think we're going to go with the neat kitchen.
Yeah, because you see it all the time. I mean, I could just close my daughter's room and not look at it.
Yeah, hold your nose.
Doesn't exist anymore.
Open a window. I did that today. It was so bad in one of the rooms. I said, I'm just going to open a window and close the door and just pray for better times tonight. See what happens.
I feel, and that's another thing, leading by example, going back to that. I have a pile of laundry that's through the roof in my bedroom. I literally do not have the time to fold it and put it away because I'm constantly on the go. And they have a pile of laundry to the roof in their bedroom. And they have the time to put it away, but they are, I guess I should start putting my laundry away now that we are
It's not
talking
gonna
about
happen.
this example.
I have
thing.
I have the sculpture as well.
Yeah.
We all have the
chair
sculpture.
sculpture, the stuff that sits on the chair.
Yes. It's a little higher on the sides, in the back. Yeah, it resembles a chair.
Yep.
It's a piled up chair.
Yeah, no one's perfect, Mike. You know, we all got our things.
Oh my God. Tell me, I can't go down the self-deprecating hole too far. Julie's been critiquing these podcasts. She's like, you really like dog yourself a lot. Like, I'm like, yeah, it's like one of my things. I'm very comfortable to make fun of myself or to self-deprecate. She's warning me it might be going too far. So I have to be more assertive. So I'm the best. I've always been the best, and I'll still be the best later on. Got that out. Good.
There you go.
So now everything's even again. Are you from this area?
I am.
Tell me your Monmouth County story.
I grew up in Farmingdale. My parents are still in the same house that I was raised in.
In Farmingdale.
And it's, our mailing address is Farmingdale, but we lived we were on the border of Howell, Freehold, Farmingdale, right in that little triangle.
All those towns connected. Even Neptune sort of.
Yeah, Neptune. Colts Neck is over there.
Everything's in there.
It's just like this umbrella of towns that fall into this like little corner of Monmouth County. So yeah, I grew up there. I grew up with two brothers. I was the middle child. So I played ice hockey growing up because, I wanted to do what my brothers did.
Is it still there? Wasn't there a rink right there?
Oh yeah, it's still there. I actually brought I'm trying to get my daughter. I don't ever want to push my daughters into doing something. I want them to want to do it, but I took them for ice skating lessons this summer or this past spring. So we'll see. They may turn into little ice hockey players. At least one of them. But so my older brother was a lifeguard in Belmar from the time he was like the youngest lifeguard that ever started at that time. He was 16. And I think you had to be 18 to be a lifeguard at that point. And so I was just like, oh my God, my brother's a lifeguard in Belmar. Let's like go there all the time and hang out at his lifeguard stand. So me and my girlfriends would go and just hang out with my brother. We thought we were so cool. We would get on the beach for free. The lifeguards knew us. And it brought me into Belmar, really. And a lot of my friends were in Belmar. So I spent a lot of my time in, Belmar, Avon, not so much Bradley at the time, but like these little towns right here growing up. And I just always had an affinity for it. I think because I didn't live here, but I wanted to so bad. I was 14, 15, 16, couldn't drive yet.
But you're only 15 minutes away.
Oh, yeah. But,
seems like a
just
longer distance.
Having that, being able to ride your bike around town and ride your bike to your friend's house. And I just was like, This is the coolest way to live. I thought it was so cool. And I might not have appreciated it as much if, I didn't live in the town, if I lived in the towns. So just, I've always had such an affinity for it down here. So when Mike and I met, we were actually living up in North Jersey. And Mike's was actually born in Poland, and his family moved out to West Jersey when he was 9. So he was from Poland. And they brought him to Jersey.
he was in Poland until he was 8.
9, yep.
Do you know which part of Poland?
Gdańsk.
Gdańsk,
right outside of there's a resort town that I can't think of the name of, but there was a big resort town right next to where he lived. Oh. And we went there once. We were planning on going again, but yeah, Mike speaks Polish. The whole 9.
That's very Julie's mother is from Poland. I'm not going to try and pronounce the town.
They're not easy to pronounce.
Something with a V. Or maybe it just sounds like a V.
It probably just sounds like a V.
Her mother moved here when she was a girl, so maybe a very similar, at least age-wise, story to Mike. I didn't know that. That's really interesting. Yeah. I got to hook up Julie's mom and Mike. They can wax Polish for a little while.
Yep.
On each other.
Yeah. So, but anyway, when got pregnant with our twins, I was like, I want to be down by the beach. I want to raise them back down here. And Mike was in total agreement to it. So we found a little house and we rented it in the beginning. It's the same house we're in now. And we bought it 3 years after we were renting it. And, well, it's entirely too small for our family of 5 and our 100-pound dog. But we love our neighborhood. Our kids could ride their bikes places. We're close enough to the beach. We're close enough to our business. And we'll probably never leave, but you never know. But yeah, I live now 8 minutes from the house I grew up in. So, and
you're in between the brewery and the house that you
literally
you're right in the middle.
Yep.
Yeah, it probably takes you exactly 8 minutes to get to the brewery. That's how long it takes me to pretty much get here.
Yep.
Maybe you're 7 minutes.
Can you? That's pretty impressive from over where we live.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Oh, that's really interesting. There is something to this area. There's something to be to be said for, hey, I'm going to plot my bike in Belmar, Avon, Bradley Beach, and Asbury Park, and just kind of cruise. I know where we are in Wall, getting the little kids to these towns. They're not quite there yet on the bike.
No, not yet.
But it's still super close. And Farmingdale is super close. My family, the Scotto side of the family, they emigrated from Italy, and then it was Brooklyn, like every good Italian, and then it was Farmingdale.
Interesting.
And this is obviously going back, some years. And that was their first spot. So as my grandmother, who recently passed, we're having a memorial for her next week, actually. We weren't able to have it during COVID. She passed from COVID. And we weren't really able to do anything proper, but we're going to have a thing for her in a week or two. And she used to tell these funny stories of going from, the Italian ghettos of Brooklyn to Nowheresville, Farmingdale, when it was Farmingdale. And it still is. It still is beautiful. It still has that vibe. But I think something tells me back then there might have been a couple less houses and more farms.
Yep.
And she used to have these great stories of she didn't love being in the ridiculousness of the ghettos of Brooklyn. And then she went there and she's like, this is it's just as bad, except like opposite.
Too much.
It's too much isolation. Like, really? We're going to raise rabbits? Like, that's what we're doing now? And yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. It reminds me of my family's story. And I know you're of Italian-American descent. When we talked on the phone, if you don't mind me bringing this up, you said you're kind of fresh to just getting comfortable really with your last name.
Mm-hmm.
Is it cool if we talk about this?
Absolutely.
All right, I don't want to
Absolutely.
piss anybody off. But you've got this wonderful Polish last name, Ziolkowski, now, and we know where the name comes from and all that. But you had you were used to an Italian-American upbringing. I can totally relate to that. Di Marino?
Di Marino.
Di Marino. So you're literally just getting comfortable with sort of like, well, I don't use that last name anymore. Can you talk about that? Like, I don't know what it's like. I'm a guy, and I don't even put any weight on those things anyway. If Julie was like, no, we're not doing your last name, I'm like, whatever. I don't care either way. But I guess I never had a stake in it. Can you talk a little bit about that part of your life, which I can't relate to?
Yeah. So it's funny. There's a lot of thoughts that happen around that, right? Taking someone's last name. I was always very proud of where I came from, proud of the Di Marino name, proud of my family. And I also had a mother who, how things translate to your kids, she struggled with her last name as well. So somebody would call our house and say, can I speak? My mom is from Argentina, so we have a little bit of a Spanish side to us as well. My mom's name's Janet Di Marino, and someone would call our house and say, can I speak to Margarita Alfaro? And I was like, that person does not exist. I don't know who that is. And I'd say, Mom, someone just called from Margarita Alfaro. She goes, oh, that's me. I'm like, your name's Janet. She's like, well, actually, it's Margarita. I was like, but your last name's Di Marino. She goes, it's actually Alfaro. I use it because I use DiMarino because, you guys have the same last name, but my real last name is Alfaro. My real first name is Margarita. Like, my mom has this crazy name story.
So she was blowing your mind when you were a little kid.
Oh, my God. Yeah. So, seeing my mom kind of hold on to her last name a little bit, I think, made me want to hold on to my last name. I was just really proud of where I came from, and I didn't quite understand why I had to, change my last name. If I wanted to keep it, why couldn't I keep it, And the only reason that I'm now adjusting my last name is really mainly for my kids, not so much Mike. Seeing my kids question, Mom, why do people call you Mrs. DiMarino instead of Mrs. Ziolkowski? And I'm like, well, because my maiden name is DiMarino and I never really changed it. I'm like, oh, well, we want the same last name as our mom. I was like, well, your last name's Ziolkowski. So they kind of triggered me to move into the Ziolkowski last name, but their middle names are DiMarino and Alfaro. So I kept it within their names as well. They have really long names. I feel so bad for them.
So do you feel like I'm just gonna keep digging on this.
I
hope it's cool.
I hope it brings to light something that's like going on in my brain.
This is turning into a therapy session. I could tell. So is it more like? So are you doing that for yourself? Are you doing it for your kids? Or are you doing it because you've come to the realization that it really doesn't matter, or it does really matter, and you're like, I'm not gonna focus on that anymore?
I think it took me, like I said, I was so proud of DiMarino, and I think it took me a really long time to be proud of Ziolkowski because, I lived most of my life as a DiMarino, and I only lived a few number of years as Ziolkowski. So it was almost like I had to be proud of my last name through years and experience and the trials and tribulations of marriage. And, through the years, Mike and I have been together and we have our 3 beautiful girls and we've built what we built. I'm starting to become proud of the Ziolkowski last name. And, I hope this does not offend anybody, but this is just the honest truth. And it's just, everybody has a different way of thinking of things. And I struggled with it. I really did. And for the reasons why, I will never know if I'll be able to exactly pinpoint it. But, I'm starting to become really proud, like I said, of the Ziolkowski last name, but it also is very hard to let go of DiMarino.
I can imagine. I mean, what we're talking about is tradition and convenience.
Right.
Really? Well, that's what people do. Okay. And, like your kid said, it's confusing, this and that. So I think it's just tradition and convenience, and I could really imagine tradition and convenience having no bearing on your feelings, because those things rarely have bearing on my feelings. I'm like, well, this is what's up, or this is what I think, and if it's cool, great. If it's not cool, sorry. I'll work on it. But tradition and convenience. It sounds like you started with convenience and you're starting to build some history behind it. It's almost like it's something new that you're building together.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think
it's like a third thing. It's not his name or your name, even though it's his name. It's like it's becoming a different thing now.
Right. And it's always with everything in my life, it's always taken me some time to get used to things. Just with even my career and what I wanted to go to college for, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. I mean, I think a lot of people are, but it's just like you said, getting used to it, understanding what it really means. Like I said with the research, I need to understand everything before I dive in. It's almost the same with my last name. I need to really understand what holds that name together. And sometimes it takes people the minute they get married to figure that out. Sometimes it takes people a couple years. Sometimes people will never change their last name. It really attests to who you are as a person, right? Do you go with the molds and just take on the name because that's tradition and that's what you're supposed to do? Or like me, do you sit around and think about it and wonder why you're doing the things you're doing, and is it the right move, or you just kind of just need the grit behind it?
You fit perfectly in the recording studio. So again, every artist has the same.
I love
You're
that.
an artist. You're an artist.
You know what? I would be so proud to be an artist.
You are. No, I mean, I'm not saying that in a joking way. I mean, you are. You've created something. You do something incredibly creative, along with your business partner, your husband, and of course the team that works with you. But it's a creative process. I mean, you could look at music as this lofty, passionate, artistic thing, and you could also look at it as, well, you can't really see it on the camera right now, but I'm in front of hundreds of dials and buttons and meters and levels, and there's a technical aspect to everything, and there's a passionate aspect to everything. You're right in there.
Perfect.
It sounds like you might have been struggling, please correct me if I'm way off base here, with the idea that this, because I've had this conversation with my wife too, so I feel like I've got a little bit of a foot in reality on this one. Assuming another name could mean also assuming a demure posture or a secondary posture, or, to the right and behind a little bit, posture. And that's something that I know can rub a lot of people the wrong way. My wife is one of those people. She's a badass.
I love your wife.
Rock star.
She's awesome.
I get the feeling you're a similar type. So sometimes it's just like, even if no one else is feeling that, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're feeling that a little bit, that's a problem. But it might be a problem just inside you. So I assume it's also a tough, well, like we're talking about, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
You're still figuring it out.
I'm still figuring it out. I'll probably be trying to figure it out till the day I die. But that's just me. That's one of my little quirks that I can't quite figure out for myself. But I'm okay with it. I'm okay that there's no part of me that gets upset that I didn't take Mike's name right away. There's no part of me that gets upset that I'm, leaning towards the Ziolkowski name now. There's no part of me that gets upset over any of it, because I got to go through the process myself, and it wasn't because somebody told me this is what I had to do, or this is tradition, or this is what all your friends are doing, this is what your grandparents' parents did. And I was not defiant as a child, or it's not like it's coming from like, well, I'm not doing that because everyone else does. It's just literally a process for me, figuring it out, thinking about it.
Thinking through things.
Yeah.
Coming up with meaning, not just assuming meaning because of history.
Correct.
I could relate to that.
Yeah.
You said you referred to what you were studying in college. What did you study in college?
I studied health science. And I still constantly think about going back to school for other things. I've applied for other things, and I always want to do. I always want to gain knowledge and learn everything I could possibly learn about the things that I'm interested in life. And it's funny because right before Mike and I decided to create this brewery, I was a postpartum doula. So I helped new moms who had just had babies try to transition into motherhood with a newborn, and help them with really every aspect of becoming a mom, which is so far off of beer. And so you would think, from beer and owning a brewery and producing a product that people, drink and enjoy and have fun with, have conversations about. But I found that a lot of these things that I love, there is some unity between them. Helping a mom with her new baby is, not that far off from helping, our being able to help the community with our business. And it's, every job that I've ever aspired to do, or everything that I've ever aspired to do, needed to have that helping piece to it, whether it was helping a single person, helping our staff, helping a community, like I said, was always just very important to me. And Mike's great because he knows that about me. He knows it's important to me. Mike's the business guy, like straight up business. He's not an empathetic guy whatsoever.
No, I like that about him.
That's why
a few times we had to talk business. It was fast.
Yep.
It was to the point. Yes, I prefer that. Like as a fella.
Yep.
As a person, I prefer that kind. But I could see it could be intimidating to some people.
Oh, he's taught me so much about how you should talk to people to not get what you want, but to get a straight answer so you don't bullshit around things and like, well, if we do this, no, this is how it should be done. This is what we're doing. Like, he's taught me to not ever be fearful of what people might think of the things that you say in order to get something done. You just do it. And I've taught him a lot as well. But yeah, Mike.
Yeah, I got that vibe from him, and I respect that vibe a lot. Just the way I was brought up and the way I think about the world, I dig that vibe about him. I could relate to that vibe about him. I think it's cool. It's unique in some ways, and it's important in a lot of ways. What's next, or what's current for the Bradley Brew Project, which I recommend y'all go if you like beer. Maybe just go anyway and just check it out. They also, I think, still have like snacks and other things too, right? So you don't have to only purchase a beer there. Is that correct?
We have, there's a lot of people that come in that don't drink beer that just want to, go in with their friends, family, whoever it may be, and sit down and hang out in the atmosphere. So we have snacks. We teamed up with a local bakery that brings fresh pretzels every day, sealed and packaged, because there's a ton of brewery laws and regulations that we need to stay on top of and abide by. And one of those things is we cannot sell food, but we can sell prepackaged snacks. So we're able to work with this bakery since she could prepackage, seal, put a little nutrition label on it, and sell it. So we do try to team up with her to provide more substantial snacks than a bag of chips. But, we have water, seltzers, and other things for people who might not necessarily drink beer.
So what are you guys planning for the summer? It's been a weird year. COVID and all that. Last summer was definitely, I'm sure, a wacky summer for you guys, as it was for everybody.
I've never had to pivot so much in my life with my business. And even now, we just found out this week on Friday, the mask mandate goes away for anyone who's fully vaccinated. And then the following week, they're taking away, you're able to stand at a bar again or stand at your table, which hasn't been a thing for over a year.
That's right.
So we need to adjust our business model again. We need to train our staff all over again within days of this happening, especially gearing up to the summer. But we're super pumped for the summer. We can't wait to get back to allowing people to come into our establishment without so many things hindering how they are within our walls. They had to wear a mask as they walked in. If they weren't actively eating or drinking, you technically had to wear a mask. Our staff had to go through a barrage of statements when they sat down. So we're excited that that's all kind of going away, and you could just come in and exist in our building and enjoy yourself. But as far as new things, we definitely have things planned, new beers. Mike and I have been hardcore working on, expansion plans. And we have stuff in the works, which we're super excited about. That's not really out there yet, but there's exciting things coming for Bradley Brew.
Like what? Come on, don't tease. Exciting things. Like what? Like, scented trash bags? What are we talking about?
Scented beer bags.
Beer bags.
I don't know.
You might need a beer bag at some point. I don't know. Hopefully outside. So, can you be specific?
I can't be specific quite yet.
All right.
But I can say that we are growing. And it might be, we'll always have our little beach brewery, but there might be something new in the works within our county. So,
oh, that's badass. I support you guys. I've always supported you guys, as well as other breweries in the area and outside. I think it's a great thing. I think you guys have some real just solid flagship brews. The Unicorn Girls is a great brew. What did Julie really love? Was it Pinky? I don't know, something like that. You guys just do a good job. If I may put in a request here, just put it out into the internetosphere. I'm looking for just a true basic, nothing fruity, but a basic sour beer. Like a traditional, something that most people might call medicine. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for like that one that most people hate, but I'm just throwing that out there. Since I have you, I mean, you can't go anywhere.
No, I'm stuck in
trapped.
Here. They have
You're
me
literally
stuck.
trapped. You're literally tethered to things. So give me that goddamn sour beer.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Mike, because we have a mango limeade coming out, a sour beer. And for our sour line, it always starts with a base. And that base is great in and of itself. And we always, we're like, what are we going to add to this? What fruit, what herb, whatever, to give it that pizzazz to our customers, to be able to market it a certain way. Because you have to think about all this stuff. You don't just make beer. There's so much more that goes into it. So that's not a bad idea, to just stick with the base, keep it simple, put out an easy drinking sour beer without all the fruit in it.
Look, I'm one person. This is one opinion. Apparently everybody has one. So this is one. Yeah, I like a traditional sour beer.
You have to try our we have a saison beer that was fermented in our foeder that has the brightness of a sour, and there's no fruit added to it. It sat in our foeder for a number of weeks,
What's
months.
a foeder?
A foeder is this big, if you've been into our brewery,
yeah.
Right at the end of the bar, there's this big wooden vessel that's probably, I think it's about 7 feet tall. It holds 7 barrels of beer. Barrel is 31 gallons. And what we do is we soaked the inside of the foeder with, we used gin from Asbury Park Distilling at one point. And we've done a couple other things within the foeder, but it's turned into it was turning into a blend of things that we were putting through it. But now we're coming up with this cool foeder line. So flagship beers like John, which is our house pilsner that everybody loves.
Yeah, it's
just
great.
Easy drinking beer. I think I actually brought you one.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
So we're putting that through the foeder to see what kind of funkiness it kind of picks up from the wood as it ferments in there.
It's chemistry.
There's so much science to brewing. It's insane. That's why a lot of breweries, like the big ones, have a lab within the brewery. You're propagating yeast. You're doing all these crazy things that you would never think as a consumer would go into brewing, but it does. It's
cool. Julie's a chemist by trade.
I know.
So that's like her original thing. So if she wants to
might be a great brewer.
She might want to maybe she changes industries. You get like the geeky scientist on staff.
She's hired. Send her over.
She's very combative though. I gotta be honest. You gotta be careful with her.
I don't believe that.
I made that up. Yeah, that was her thing, chemistry. And we're watching years and years later. We're watching Breaking Bad. So like.
Did you watch it the first time? Or
No.
It's
just like the first. We're watching it for the first time. We're like so frugal. Like we've only had television like periodically throughout our lives. So it's like we had cable for a short while, and we saw I think 2 episodes or 3 episodes. And we're like, man. I don't even know when it was. It wasn't from the beginning. It was like the end of season 1 or something. So whenever that was, and then we got rid of cable again. And we're like, man, this show's real badass. So we recently got some kind of situation where we could watch it, and we're just piling through. Show's insane.
So
So I
good.
think about Julie like that. I'm like, oh man, is she gonna go like off the deep end and just like, I haven't really flexed my skill set, and bring destruction upon like the earth, like the main character so far. And yeah, it's interesting. We'll get her in there.
Yeah.
She'll make things real crazy.
We need a little crazy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you need more crazy. Chelsey Ziolkowski, co-owner, Bradley Brew Project in Bradley Beach, right on Main Street. Just a great brewery, great people. I think you guys do a fine job, and I'm thankful to have met you. You were the first one I met, and I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful to have met Mike as well. And I'm happy to be a friend and a patron of the Bradley Brew Project. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. We love having you at the brewery, too.
All right.
We miss your music.
Who knows what the future holds. All right. Thanks for coming on the
Thanks,
show.
Mike.
Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Goodbye, everybody.